Mr. President, are you going to sell F-35s to Turkey, and what about the legal restrictions?
The decision we're going to take, we have a very good relationship. I would think that many people, like I said, many people, one of the people sitting right here, what can we do that have a better relationship with Turkey? And Turkey has been in many ways much more loyal than other countries that we think would be loyal. So something certainly we're considering. It's a great plane. It's the best, it's currently the best plane by far. And certainly something we will consider,
Is Donald Trump finally growing tired of Benjamin Netanyahu's repeated interference? As fresh reports suggest, growing frustration is straining one of Washington's most closely watched political relationships? At a time when Israel faces mounting regional pressure, did Donald Trump risk betraying one of America's closest allies by pushing ahead with support for Türkiye despite fierce objections from Benjamin Netanyahu? Could a single proposed sale of F-35 stealth fighter jets to Türkiye become the flashpoint that shatters the long-standing political bromance between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu? What exactly did Benjamin Netanyahu say about the proposed F-35 sale to Türkiye that reportedly left Donald Trump furious and pissed off behind closed doors at the White House? Have Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu gone from being political best friends to increasingly bitter rivals, with tensions now spilling into public view over major foreign policy disagreements? Donald Trump was reportedly angered after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu publicly criticized the proposed U.S. sale of F-35 stealth fighter jets to Türkiye, triggering fresh tensions between the two leaders. According to Axios, which cited two White House officials familiar with the reported dispute, Trump's frustration grew after Netanyahu openly challenged the administration's proposed defense deal with Türkiye. The report says Trump believed Benjamin Netanyahu had no right to publicly oppose the proposed F-35 sale, viewing the criticism as unwarranted interference in a key U.S. foreign policy decision. Netanyahu reportedly voiced his opposition to the proposed F-35 deal before Donald Trump's visit to Ankara for the NATO summit, adding another layer of friction ahead of the high-profile trip. Despite widespread reports in the Israeli media, no meeting between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu was reportedly scheduled, according to officials familiar with the White House calendar. Reports suggest Netanyahu had been trying to secure a face-to-face meeting with Donald Trump for more than 2 weeks, but no official confirmation was ever announced by the White House. Since returning to the White House in January 2025, Donald Trump has hosted Benjamin Netanyahu 6 separate times, highlighting the close relationship the two leaders had maintained until now. Netanyahu's planned visit to the United States was also reportedly canceled after the funeral of Senator Lindsey Graham was delayed, disrupting the expected timeline for his trip. White House officials emphasized that no meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu had ever been confirmed, saying the Israeli leader's name never appeared on Trump's official public schedule. One White House official was quoted as saying Netanyahu appeared to be trying to will a meeting into existence, suggesting the Israeli leader was pushing for talks that had not actually been arranged. Israeli defense officials have warned that Turkey could find technical or operational workarounds to get around U.S. restrictions on F-35 fighter jets, creating new vulnerabilities in regional air power dynamics. Israeli sources now fear that Ankara may discover methods to bypass the legal and technical limits placed on the F-35 program, potentially giving Turkish forces greater access to sensitive capabilities than Washington intended. These concerns have intensified as former U.S. President Donald Trump publicly weighs the possibility of approving an F-35 sale to Turkey, a move that would force allies and intelligence partners to reassess long-standing safeguards. According to a report in the Jerusalem Post, Israeli officials view the potential sale not as a routine arms transfer but as an escalating security problem that could have strategic consequences across the Middle East. Israeli analysts believe Turkey's mature defense industry possesses the technical know-how and engineering capacity needed to overcome many of the practical U.S. restrictions on the aircraft. By contrast, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia abandoned earlier plans to acquire F-35s after Washington proposed strict operational and export limitations, demonstrating how controls can influence procurement decisions. Israeli officials worry that Turkey may be uniquely positioned to skirt such practical limits in ways the Gulf states could not, creating a gap in regional enforcement and a fresh set of intelligence and defense challenges. Benjamin Netanyahu has publicly and repeatedly opposed any sale of F-35 fighter jets to Turkey, arguing that such a transfer would dangerously undermine regional security and Israel's qualitative military edge. Israeli officials warn that a Turkish F-35 fleet could materially shift the military balance in the Middle East, altering calculations about power projection, deterrence, and the outcome of future conflicts. They say the F-35's low observable stealth and sensor fusion create operational challenges that could present a major threat to Israel's ability to detect and defeat advanced air incursions. Israeli fears include the possibility that Turkey could use F-35s to launch strikes without early detection, allowing rapid, hard-to-counter attacks in a future confrontation. Defense officials note that, to date, no country has reliably detected and tracked an F-35 under realistic combat conditions, a fact that worries planners who rely on timely radar and sensor data. Israel also fears that Ankara might pass on F-35 tracking knowledge, technical workarounds, or acquisition-derived intelligence to adversaries such as Syria or Iran, multiplying the strategic risk. Officials warn that such transfers or shared knowledge could blunt Israel's traditional ability to conduct preemptive strikes by creating safe windows for hostile aircraft to operate. Israeli defense leaders are imploring Washington to weigh broader security implications and not focus solely on the commercial or political value of defense deals with Turkey. Israeli sources argue that Turkey's evolving strategic posture and independent defense industrial ambitions deserve more intense U.S. scrutiny before any advance transfers are approved. At the same time, officials acknowledge the political complication that Turkey's NATO membership creates, noting it makes Washington less likely to treat Ankara as a straightforward security threat. They point out that even a localized dispute in theaters such as Syria or Gaza could carry much higher risks if both sides fielded or faced F-35s, raising the stakes of otherwise limited clashes. Reports also note that the United States has historically never allowed Israel to participate in the F-22 fighter program, reflecting long-standing restrictions on access to certain top-tier systems. Israel has likewise been excluded from the U.S. next-generation F-47 fighter program, a move that underscores both technological divides and political limits on sharing cutting-edge platforms. The planned F-47 sixth-generation fighter is expected to begin testing in 2028 and to enter service around 2030, a timeline that will shape long-term air power balances if export policies change. Sitting beside President Erdogan, President Trump announced he would soon make a determination on the possible sale of F-35s to Turkey, signaling that a high-level political decision could be imminent.